What's up?
It isn't right
What isn't right?
where we're at. We're way off.
Really?
What do you think? You've achieved everything? Because you get a little gold in your pocket?
Did I say that?
Sounded like it.
No.
Imagine stumbling upon a hidden treasure chest in the middle of nowhere. That's exactly what happened to Parker Schnabel. Deep in the wilderness, he discovered an abandoned mine packed with gold, just sitting there, untouched for years, like it was waiting for him. His crew jumped in, hauling out the shiny stuff at lightning speed, their eyes gleaming as much as the gold itself. At first, it seemed like they'd hit the ultimate jackpot. Thick streaks of gold ran through the rock walls, sparkling even in the faint light. No rusty old tools or toxic chemicals in sight, just pure, natural riches, ready for the taking. Parker didn't waste a second. He claimed it all. But here's the twist. The deeper they dug, the weirder things got. They started finding strange stuff. Unusual tools, creepy markings, and warnings scratched into the stone that seemed to say, "Turn back now." It wasn't just treasure they were uncovering. It was something spooky, something that felt alive and dangerous. Picture this: a secret so wild it could rewrite history and put anyone who digs too far in serious trouble. Tune in to see Parker unravel this mind-blowing mystery, one that was never meant to be found. When I was little, my grandpa used to tell me about his big mining days. Once, he pulled out 42 ounces of gold in a single day, and they flew around for 4 hours celebrating. Same vibe as this place, perfect conditions, almost too perfect. But back to Parker. As his team kept digging, the air got heavy. Then, out of nowhere, a deep, rumbling growl echoed up from the ground. This wasn't like the fancy Yukon mining with frozen ground and giant machines guzzling gas. Nope, this was old school, simple, fast, and way too easy. In just a few hours, they yanked out over 100 grams of gold. It felt like they were robbing the past itself. But here's the kicker. That gold came with a price, and it wasn't just money. What they dug up was a dangerous puzzle, and the deeper they went, the more it fought back. Parker Schnabel and his crew are digging deeper into this wild, forgotten mine, expecting piles of gold. And they're finding it. But something's not right. The further they go, the more the mystery piles up. Who walked away from this treasure trove? Why didn't they come back for it? Just when they hit what should have been the sweet spot, bam! They stumble onto something freaky. Signs that someone else had been there before. And those folks? They bolted in a rush. Meanwhile, another miner nearby is going all in, digging a massive hole, chasing the bedrock like his life depends on it. He's burning cash faster than he's finding gold. A risky game Parker knows too well. One wrong move, and you're broke. Parker keeps an eye on him, because in this business you can go from hero to zero in a heartbeat. But here's where it gets wild. This mine isn't just some old pile of rocks. It's like a time machine. The rocks don't match today's maps, and the tools they're finding? Way too slick for back in the day. Someone smart, worked this place long ago and left behind more than just gold. It's got Parker's crew buzzing. The other guy on site is dreaming of hauling out 5 or 6 kilos of gold in one go, enough to set him up for life. But it's not just about the cash. It's the rush of chasing something huge. I've seen this kind of thing before. Downstream, we'd spend millions getting ready to hit spots like this, and here they are, just scooping it up off the riverbank like it's nothing. Crazy, right? Every shovelful of dirt is a gamble. Fortune or failure, no in-between. Parker's been in jams before, but this mine's got a vibe. like it's whispering about miners who tried and tanked ages ago. Still, his gut's screaming to keep digging. What if this is the big one? The find that rewrites the books? The ground's getting shaky. Literally. They're inching closer to something ancient, something buried for centuries. Then they hit bedrock, the make-or-break layer. It's now or never. And there it is. Gold. Way more than they dreamed, more than any mine around. There's coughed up in years. But the real shocker? It's not just the gold. They're pulling up artifacts, weird markings, stuff that doesn't fit any mining story they know. Someone was here, way before anyone should have been. And whatever they left behind, it's rewriting the game. Parker Schnabel stood at a crossroads, gold in his hands and a secret whispering from the shadows. He could grab the riches and bolt, call it a win after years of mining, or keep pushing, risking it all for something bigger, something wilder. He'd spent his whole life digging. But this felt different. Some treasures stay hidden for a reason, and some mines get left behind because they're trouble. His crew was split. Half wanted to yell from the rooftops, call in the historians and archaeologists to figure out what they'd stumbled into. The other half, they were hooked, dying to see how far this rabbit hole went, chasing every last nugget and clue. Parker was stuck in the middle, torn between the buzz of uncovering a game-changer and the nagging feeling he should play it safe. Time was ticking, and then, bam, trouble hit. The deeper they went, the shakier the ground got. Those old tunnel supports? They weren't built for today's heavy digging. Cracks spiderwebbed the walls, dust choked the air, and then part of the mine collapsed, slamming shut a chunk of their path. They had to rethink everything. This wasn't just about rocks and dirt anymore. It was a tug-of-war with time itself, with an earth that had locked away its secrets for centuries. Parker didn't even know what they were after now, gold or answers. His crew, wiped out and jittery, kept at it, all of them feeling the weight of something massive. But the big question hung over them like a storm cloud. Were they ready for what was coming? Days stretched into weeks. Every shiny ounce of gold they hauled out was a heart-pounding reminder of the stakes. The artifacts, strange, old things they cataloged but couldn't figure out, only piled on more mysteries. Just when they thought they were done, they struck gold in a whole new way. A hidden chamber, sealed tight, untouched for who knows how long. Stepping inside flipped everything upside down. This wasn't just a mine. It was a lost piece of history, something ancient and forgotten. And there it was, again. That choice staring Parker down. Scoop up the gold and head home, or dive into the unknown and unearth a truth buried deep under the ground. Mining's not just about digging up gold. It's a full-on war to come out on top. Back in the day, Todd Hoffman and his crew burst onto the gold mining scene like a pack of eager newbies, armed with big dreams but not much know-how. Their first season? A total grind. They scraped together a measly 15 ounces of gold, nowhere near the jackpot they'd imagined. With zero experience, lousy luck, and a harsh wake-up call, it could have been game over. But instead of throwing in the towel, they said, "Let's roll the dice again." Todd figured they'd already looked like fools, so why stop now? They were determined to figure out this mining thing. Just when they thought they were getting the hang of it, bam, they got hit hard. They lost their spot at Porcupine Creek to Dakota Fred Hurd, who swooped in like a hawk and sent them packing. Instead of sulking, the Hoffmans bounced back, snagged Quartz Creek, and clawed their way to nearly 100 ounces. Meanwhile, a teenage hotshot, Parker Schnabel, was stirring things up at Big Nugget Mine, outshining the old-timers and proving he wasn't just some kid messing around. The Hoffmans kicked it into high gear, pulling in over 800 ounces, a monster jump from their shaky start. Parker, still learning the ropes, nabbed almost 200 ounces. This wasn't about luck anymore. It was guts, smarts, and knowing when to swing big. The gloves were off, and the rivalry heated up. Parker, done playing it safe, went all out and hauled in over 1,000 ounces, sending a loud message. Todd and his crew hit their stride too, but their best haul started looking puny next to Parker's climb. The pressure was piling on, and what started as friendly competition turned into a serious showdown. Parker blew everyone away with over 2,500 ounces, while the Hoffmans, refusing to fade out, raked in nearly 1,400. This was no longer just a treasure hunt. It was a battle for bragging rights, and neither side was backing down. The stakes were sky high, and the days of casual mining were ancient history. Every choice could make or break you. Mistakes hit the wallet hard, and every stumble felt like a punch to the gut. Parker Schnabel was on fire, hauling in over 3,300 ounces and showing the world he wasn't just a contender. He was the guy to beat. Tony Beats, a seasoned pro with years in the game, piled up more than 700 ounces, adding bricks to his gold empire. This wasn't just a race for the most gold. It was a test of who could survive a brutal business that chewed up anyone who wasn't ready. Then came Season 8, a total game changer. Parker's crew smashed it with over 6,200 ounces, while Tony stayed hot on his heels with more than 3,600. What started as a few gritty guys with shovels had exploded into multi-million-dollar operations, and the pressure to keep the wins coming never let up. Records kept falling. Parker's team hit over 7,400 ounces, cementing him as the king of the hill, while Tony stacked up more than 4,000, refusing to back off. These weren't just numbers. They were loud shouts of who ruled the dirt. The gold kept coming, but so did the stress, and cracks were starting to show. Challenges piled up, but the results? Undeniable. Parker's crew topped 7,500 ounces. Tony held strong with over 3,000, and Rick Ness stepped up as a legit player, crossing 1,000 ounces. The heat wasn't easing, and every move had to be spot on. Parker's team soared to a jaw-dropping 8,300 ounces, their best ever. Tony roared back with over 4,600, and Rick pushed past 2,000. The game was shifting fast, and these miners had to shift with it or get left behind. The fight for the top got downright fierce. Parker locked in over 8,100 ounces. Tony crushed it with more than 5,000, and Rick kept proving himself with over 1,000. The gold was still out there, but it was playing hard to get, and one slip-up could tank a whole season. But let's be real. This wasn't just about shiny rocks. It was the drama, the backstabbing, and the rivalries that kept you glued to the edge of your seat. At the end of it all, something's gotta give. The grind's real, and it's pushing everyone to their limit. These miners weren't just hunting for gold. They were battling for bragging rights, respect, and the title of top dog. Things got messy right from the start. In Season 1, Jim Dorsey and Greg Remsburg went at it like cats and dogs. The gold wasn't showing up, everyone's nerves were shot, and Dorsey hit his breaking point. Remsburg wouldn't back off, and next thing you know, fists were swinging. Dorsey stormed off for good, but the crew made sure he'd remember them. They smashed his cabin to bits in a fit of rage. Then there was Dave Turin and Trey Polson, two guys who never saw eye to eye. When they split into rival teams, Things turned ugly fast. Turin's side floundered while Polson's crew struck gold, and the tension erupted into a full-blown brawl. Turin took the hardest hits and walked away, done with the Hoffman squad for good. This wasn't just about treasure anymore, it was personal. Parker Schnabel and Tony Beets had their own epic showdown. Parker used to look up to Tony, but Tony's not the warm and fuzzy type. When Tony pulled the plug on Parker's wash plant, Parker fired back by dumping a pile of dirt right on Tony's turf, a bold move that screamed, "I'm not your pushover." Another clash lit up the scene when foreman Kendall Madden called out Johnny Stans for slacking. Stans wasn't having it, and their shouting match turned into a fistfight that almost tanked the whole gig. Madden tried to patch things up later, but the scars were already there. Meanwhile, Parker stumbled onto something wild. He found a mine no one even knew existed, swallowed up by time, tucked away behind a tangle of trees and thick bushes. Most people would have strolled right past it, but not Parker. His gut told him to check it out. When he hacked through the overgrowth and stepped inside, what he saw gave him chills. This was no ordinary find. Buried riches, secrets from the past, all waiting to be uncovered. Parker wasn't about to let it slip through his fingers. He rounded up his crew, hauled in the gear, and started digging into the unknown. The payoff was unreal. In just a few hours, Parker and his crew were yanking out hundreds of grams of gold, way easier than the back-breaking slog they were used to in the Yukon. This was a miner's fantasy. No icy ground to wrestle with, no gas-guzzling machines, just good old shovels and pickaxes delivering instant treasure. But then, the questions started nagging at them. Why would anyone ditch a gold mine like this? Who walked away from a fortune? And what was with the weird stuff they kept finding? Odd relics that didn't fit, like puzzle pieces from the wrong box. The deeper they went, the stranger it got. They uncovered tools that didn't belong to any time they knew, carvings too fancy for the old days. It felt like they'd cracked open a time capsule, and it wasn't just gold inside. It was secrets. Nearby, another miner named Carno was going full throttle on his own dig, pouring everything he had into it, betting big on hitting bedrock. Parker got it. That razor-thin line between striking it rich and losing it all was a feeling he lived with every day. Mining wasn't just about the shiny stuff. It was a game of knowing when to charge ahead or cut your losses. But Parker wasn't ready to quit. He'd come too far, seen too much. Just when they thought the mine had spilled all its guts, they hit a jackpot, a hidden chamber, locked away from the rest of the tunnels. This wasn't just another pile of gold. It was something huge, something mysterious. Now Parker had a big call to make. Cash out with a fortune and head home, or take a leap into the dark and crack open that chamber. That's the thing with mining. The deeper you dig, the tougher it is to walk away. Parker's usually all about trusting his gear, but right now, he's barely daring to peek over the edge. Some things are buried for a reason, and the deeper he went into this mine, the thicker the air felt, like it was pressing down on him. His boots crunched over loose gravel, and the walls seemed to murmur old secrets through every crack. What started as a thrilling treasure hunt was turning into a creepy trip into the unknown. Every gut feeling he had was yelling at him to stop and think twice. But gold fever's a powerful thing. It messes with your head, and Parker was hooked. His crew trailed behind, shooting each other uneasy looks. They'd tackled risky digs before, but this was on another level. No one had ever heard of this place. No maps, no old diaries, nothing. It was like time had gobbled it up and only coughed it back out for them to stumble across. Then they spotted them. Weird carvings on the walls. Not the usual scratched-in minor marks or initials. These were fancy, precise shapes and patterns that had no business being in a gold mine. They weren't sloppy or random, and that's what gave Parker the creeps. Someone had been here way back when, but it didn't look like they were chasing gold. Up ahead, a sealed chamber loomed like a mystery begging to be cracked open. Parker took a shaky breath and pushed on, stepping over busted boards and scattered rubble. The air turned heavy with dust, smelling like history left to rot. Their headlamps caught a glint. Not gold this time, but something metallic. It was a door. A big, rusty iron slab that made no sense in an ancient mine. It stuck out like a sore thumb. Too modern, too strange. But there it was. Parker brushed a gloved hand over it, his heart racing. Who builds a door deep underground in a place no one's supposed to find? His crew looked to him, waiting. He could grab the gold and bail, play it safe, or chase the truth behind that door. Parker knew the smart move, but he also knew himself. With a grunt, he gave the signal. They were going in, no matter what was waiting. The hinges screamed as they shoved it open, revealing a dark tunnel. The walls weren't rough rock anymore. They were smooth stone, carved by someone who knew more than mining tricks. The air felt dead, sealed off for ages. Every step echoed into the shadows, and Parker's pulse thumped in his ears. This wasn't about gold anymore. It was something older, something huge, something that had been sitting there waiting. Should Parker have kept going, or was he about to dig up trouble better left alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and smack that bell for more wild adventures.